Welcome to Forbidden Planet 42. 42 years of the Forbidden Planet retail store in London. 42 years asking that question, what is the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything? And here to help me answer that question for this session is a true pop culture music legend, the founding father of hip hop, my personal hero, DMC, right here with us right now. It's great to see you again, D. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It's great to be in a place to be with you. And it's a wonderful occasion. It's a beautiful day. And more power to the Forbidden Planet. It's where it's
thank
at.
you, mate.
It's where it's at.
Thank you, mate. So can you remember your first visit to Forbidden Planet when I think you first came over a couple of years ago?
Yes, there was 4 years ago?
4 years ago, that's right, mate.
4 years ago, right? Okay.
Yeah.
It was amazing because I had always heard about it. You know what I'm saying? I had always heard about it, but I had no idea how phenomenal it was. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we pulled up, it was like, oh my God. It was like, it was more exciting than Disney World. It was more exciting than Coney Island. And I don't know, it was just a buzz of energy. But when I walked in the door, it was just like I was totally overwhelmed, totally overtaken, totally oversaturated by sight, sound, feel, excitement, and energy. It was a wonderful experience. I mean, it's kind of weird, but it was like walking into another dimension.
Yeah, right on.
For real.
Oh, fantastic, mate.
It was just like really, really exciting because when I told people here that I was going, and it was, oh my God, yo, D, you literally everybody I said that I was going to Forbidden Planet, when I got over there, they said, D, you're going to be blown away. And I truly was. Y'all exceeded expectations.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was your experience. Do you remember, or can you recall, the Forbidden Planet rap that you did when you were with us?
No, I did a freestyle rap.
You did a freestyle rap, yeah.
I did? No, I don't remember that. Really?
Yeah, you did a freestyle rap. I might put you on the spot. Can you come up with another one? Or can you think about it in the back of your mind?
Forbidden Planet, you won't understand it. Do not take Forbidden Planet for granted. When you walk in, your life will begin. And from that point on, life will never end.
Fantastic. That is awesome, mate.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That is brilliant. So, mate, I know that you growing up in Queens, you were always a huge comics fan, right?
Yeah. I grew up in Queens, New York. I was born 1964. So, New York City in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was completely different from the way it is now. It was at a time where 42nd Street was completely different. No Disney was in town.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Harlem was beautiful. I mean, Harlem is beautiful now. There was this complete renaissance of business and real estate, stuff like that. But back in the day, Harlem was Harlem.
Yeah.
Now it's Harlem. But back then it was Harlem. And, we lived over the bridge outside of Manhattan in the suburbs. And, we had our elements of, the gangsters and the pushers and, the whole Superfly Shaft era and stuff like that. So in my neighborhood, if you wasn't out in the streets, you had to have an imagination to occupy your time as a young kid. I went to Catholic school my whole life, you know what I'm saying? But it was something about the comic books that I could relate to. It wasn't make-believe to me. It wasn't a fantasy world. It was, especially with Marvel comic books, because Stan Lee, rest in peace. I mean, he was a genius. He put the superheroes really in New York City. So when I would open up a Marvel comic book, I would see Hell's Kitchen. I would see the Lower East Side. I would see Manhattan. I would see the Statue of Liberty. I would see the World Trade Center, the Empire State Building. they took you to Harlem when Captain America hooked up with Sam Wilson, and you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't need the blaxploitation movies, you know, Foxy Brown and Shaft and Superfly to educate me about what these communities was like. But the reason why I was so attracted to comic books, in my neighborhood, the only time in my world at the time, the only time I saw geeky, nerdy, smart, educated people was in the comic books. And I'm talking about Reed Richards. I'm talking about Tony Stark. I'm talking about Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent. I'm talking about Peter Parker. The only time I saw smart people, awkward, you know, trying to figure life out, that I could relate to was in the comic books. You know what I'm
I get it.
saying?
Yeah, right on.
And by me reading these comic books, I became a great student, because now I'm into these comic books. I need to understand what's going on. I need to figure out what Tony Stark is talking about. I got to understand what all this Green Lantern intergalactic info. I got to understand, you know, Greek and Rome when you're talking about Thor, and when you're talking about the Amazons with Wonder Woman. So it made me pay attention in school. And the beautiful thing about it is, in school, I did have those teachers that took my comic books away from me in the middle of class, because I needed to read my textbooks and workbooks. And for any college students out there, high school students, and even you little kids, elementary and middle school, we do need to read our textbooks and workbooks. So I had teachers, though, that would take my comic books from me and never give them back. But I had teachers that at the end of the day, they would give me my comic books back because they put two and two together because I was reading. And I learned a lot about the world. I learned a lot about people, you know, different characteristics and attitudes and how people act from reading these comic books. So, you know, technically these comic books was teaching me a way of life that became my life, that was really in the first place about life altogether.
Yeah, right
You
on.
know?
Yeah. No,
It's crazy.
I know, I get it. I mean, I think I had a similar experience to you, growing up in Liverpool in the UK. It's a northern city, and
Uh-huh.
it's exactly, you know, kind of comics is supremely educative, right? You know,
Right.
and tell us a lot about our common experience about mankind.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and how people relate, and you
right
know,
on.
it taught you a lot about politics, and it taught a lot about, you know, social conditions. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Or it taught us a lot about how, you know, people could be scared of people who were different. Like everything that you would go through in life, you
yeah,
started understand. You understood what a bully was, and a
right
bad
on.
guy and a good guy. You learn about compassion and stuff like that. So it really, really, really educated me about our existence. And that's why, you know, kids used to say, you in that corny make-believe stuff. And I used to say, you're goddamn right I am. Because think about those words, make-believe, make the world believe. So this make-believe world, you know, everything that I learned about, you know, you're doing this for a reason. You got this gift, you're supposed to use it. You're supposed to be respectful. Oh, you're always going to meet an adversary. Oh, there might be things that's unexpected. So it actually was how we live in this world today. And you know, Stan Lee, by him making New York City a character,
Yeah,
it was something that you're like, you know, imagine if I lived in Queens, I wasn't going into Manhattan, but I learned a lot about what Manhattan was,
yeah,
you know, through the comic book. Now, don't get me wrong, DC was cool. Gotham and Metropolis was
yeah.
amazing, but it
Agree.
was trying to be New York. Stan Lee was brilliant because he said, I'm gonna just make New York a character.
Yes.
So it brought two and two together, which helped me understand why they put, why, you know, when you look at Gotham, you look at how it's rough and it's tough. That's all because New York is an actual place. And, you know, not just New York, in major cities, you know, in London, they got their little hood where
Yeah,
the
right on.
bad and good is fighting
Yeah,
against each other. So, you know, that was the thing for me that attracted me to the comic books. And plus, I wasn't a kid that really was in the street. Like, you know, I played outside like every other kid, but I was one of those kids that in the summertime, my mother was like, you have your butt in this house when them street lights come on. When them lamps
yeah.
come on, That's your call to be in this house, come in, eat your dinner, you know, do your homework if it's during school. But then after that, you're free to do what you want to do. So you're in the house, you know, all you really had was your favorite TV shows. And after that, you had your comic books. And the comic books kept you, you know, kept you alive.
Yeah, I agree. And I think comic books have a limitless budget. They can go wherever you want to go.
Yeah,
you know, you're not confined to, especially what the TV used to be like back then.
Yeah.
You can roam anywhere with comic books. You can be cosmic, you can be the Silver Surfer, right?
Right, and you can watch. I mean, this is before we had VHSs and tape recording machines.
Yeah,
you could read that comic book over and over. And the funny thing about the comic book, that's what led me to drawing, because I would get a comic book, and you remember, you would literally read the comic 10 times, over and over and over. So now you got the whole story down pat. And what started me drawing was, after I wore out every possible mental, physical use with the comic book, the next thing was to take tracing paper and trace the cover so you could recreate the cover, because you had to fix, wow, somebody did this. So tracing paper made it easy. I didn't know, if you're tracing 1,000,000 times, you're actually going through the motions of drawing. So I started using tracing paper kindergarten in first grade. By second grade, I didn't need the tracing paper anymore. I could just look at a cover and just draw that Spider-Man cover, that Hulk cover. And it was funny. Back then, you wasn't proud of saying I read comic books. It was kind of like you had to know the who's who. So it was in my school. As a matter of fact, for my school, from like second grade to fifth grade, it was just me and this other kid named Craig Henry. He was a guy, and we found out, we didn't advertise to each other that we was in the comic books. He found out I was in the comic books when I got in trouble by the teacher for having comic books in school. And I found out he was in the comic books when he got in trouble by the teacher. And then that thing just made us hook up together, and he showed me he drew too. So from second grade to eighth grade till we graduated elementary school, I discovered there was another guy in my school who was just like me. He read comic books and then he would draw, and it brought us together.
Yeah, that's fun. That is fantastic. I mean, when you went from that grounding that comic books gave you, and you went on to have your amazing music career, which I'd like to ask you a little bit about in a bit. But once you had that amazing music career, how did you end up? How did you come about setting up Darryl Makes Comics? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's a crazy question. Well, it all had to do with it all was connected in the beginning. When hip hop, I grew up in Queens. So real quick, when hip hop came over the bridge from the Bronx, it wasn't like showbiz and performance art for me. It was more of an expression thing. When I heard hip hop, I was like, oh wow, you can tell stories about who you are over music. It was this fun thing for me to do. And Stan Lee, it's funny, it's all about Stan Lee. He taught me through his comic books the way he presented with them. Like I said, they were teaching me about life. Now, I'm this school kid. I know, phonics, and I know English and social studies and all of that. So all of this helped out. I learned from comic books that in this world, you define yourself with an adjective, and then you tell the world who you are. For instance, if I say the amazing, you'll say Spider-Man. If I say incredible, you'll say Hulk. If I say mighty, you'll say Thor. And if I say invincible, you'll say Iron Man, right? So check it out. Hip hop comes over the bridge now, and I'm like, wow, you could tell stories about who you are. So my name is Darryl McDaniels. D from Darryl, MC from McDaniels is the initials of my name. So when I said, now this is not to be in show business, this is just me pretending in my room. Yeah. I said, my old manner, Darryl McDaniels, school kid from Hollis, Queens, New York. The initials of his name is DMC. When he gets on the microphone, I'm no longer Darryl McDaniels. I transform into the devastating mic controller DMC. The son of Byford, Son of Byford, brother of Al. Banner's my mother and runs my pal. It's McDaniels, not McDonald's. These rhymes are Darryl's, those burgers are Ronald's. I ran down my family tree, my mother, my father, my brother, and me. Hip hop was a way that I could out loud tell make-believe comic book stories about me being the most powerful entity in the hip-hop universe. So real quickly, Son of Byford is just this son of Odin. Thor is the son of Odin. Right. So all of these things started to connect and make sense. King of Rock, crash through walls, come through floors, bust through ceilings, and knock down doors. So everything that I pretended and made believe that I was getting from comic book, I was able to apply that to my music, artistic, vocal expression, and that's how it all came about.
That is beautiful, mate. that is fantastic. And once you so your first book that you put out, once you put together Darryl Makes Comics, that you debuted that in 2014, didn't you? It was at,
right.
It was at New York Comic Con, which is when we first met you guys.
Exactly. So the reason why I told you that, it was like people were noticing the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
On King of Rock, Run says, I'm DJ Run, I could scratch. I didn't say I'm DMC, I could rap. I said I'm DMC, I could draw. So it was always there, but I had no way to let it out. So what had happened, it's a true story. 4 years ago, I went for a music interview up at Atlantic Records, Warner Brothers in New York City. And one of the execs up there was this young man named Riggs Morales, because I called for a music meeting. And usually, you know, in the business world, when you call for a meeting, the receptionist tells you, okay, you can come 2 weeks from now at 2:30. Yeah. But I called him, hey, this is Darryl McDaniels. I want to come up and talk to somebody about music. He was like, Darryl McDaniels, are you the DMC guy? And I was like, yeah, hold on a minute. You did. What was it like when you was a kid? And I told him, well, I went to Catholic school, and all I did was read, collect, and draw comic books. And when I said comic books, me and Riggs, this executive up at Warner Brothers Records, we thought we just had hip hop and music in common. We sat there for 3 hours and we talked about comic books. Yeah. Just like all music, and we just talked, me too. Oh, you too, me, just like me and you do. And it was like amazing. Right on. Yeah. So he just said to me, yo, Darryl, you should do a comic book. And I said, no. I said, no, whoa. Not me. You ain't gonna get me in trouble. And he was like, why would you say that? I said, look, us geeks and nerds, the fans of comic books and our TV shows and all of that, us pop culture fans, we're very critical about people disrespecting our culture and our genre and stuff like that. I said, I don't want my fellow comic book people to think, oh, just because he has hit records, he think he can come sell comic books. I didn't want them to think I was disrespecting anything. Yeah, and he just said, yo, Darryl, you're not the famous DMC celebrities selling comic books to make money. You're doing these comic books as little Darryl, whose first love was comic books. But then he hit me with this, Sumner. He said this, and you could do the same thing you've been doing with your music for the last 35 years. And I was like, what is that? Like we just talked, inspire, motivate, educate, and entertain. And I was like, wow. So as a gift, he took me to the New York City Comic Con 4 years ago. Yeah, right. And when I walked in there, I saw all the comics and all the toys and all the stuff that I had as a little kid. It was almost like, remember the first Iron Man when he would do that and the armor would come?
The armor clams onto him, yeah, for sure.
That happened to me when I walked into New York City Comic Con. All of the stuff that made me who I am, you know, as a person, as a little kid, as a young man, and as the mighty DMC, my armor came back to me. Yeah. And it gave me the confidence to I put the book out not as a self-serving ego thing. Me and Riggs, we looked at each other and said, yo, we gotta do this with integrity. My books are just basically a celebration, a demonstration, a presentation of what makes comic books appealing to everyone. I don't care if you're 3, I don't care if you're 30, I don't care if you're 80, I don't care if you're 1,000,000 years old. There's something that connects us on a core level where we see these people who we think are so great, but we don't realize is they're actually manifestations of who we are. So we wanted to do that. I don't care if you're a comic book fan, if you're a comic book fan, comic book lover of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I want you to be able to pick up my comic book and feel that thing that you've always felt.
And I think you did that in spades. One of the great things about that book is it absolutely is legit comics. You know, you read it,
it's a comic
and
book,
you feel it. You know, and it takes you on that odyssey through those different styles and those different chapters.
With the whole hip hop culture, you know what I'm saying? The style and the graffiti and the vibe,
and it takes you on that comic book journey through all of those things.
Exactly.
You know? It's really well done, mate.
Exactly. You know, and it's all like we all are reflections of pop culture. Yeah. You know, as I said before you, I'm not only the comic books, you know, like the Wu-Tang Clan. People that didn't like hip hop began to like hip hop because the Wu-Tang didn't just talk about hip hop and rapping. They talked about the kung fu movies they loved. So it was always something else that was the music was just a place to go to have the same experience. You know, me sitting before you, I am Scooby-Doo. I am Audrey Magini. I am the Jetsons. I am the Munsters, the Addams Family. I'm Lost in Space. I'm Space 1999. I'm Star Wars. You know, I'm Bruce Lee. I'm all of this, you know. And it was just, the comic book showed me that it was real. You know, the comic book showed me that I am significant because whatever you're attracted to is just a reflection of who you are. But it was hip hop and rock and roll that allowed me to share it with y'all. Like, if I didn't have hip hop and rock and roll, nobody would never know I was in the comics because I was a shy little kid. I didn't have no way to advertise that I love Peter Parker. You know what I'm saying? And you know, even with those characters, it blew my mind when I found out, look, DMC, I live in Queens. Where does Peter Parker live? In Queens. You know, as a kid, I was like, oh my God, Spider-Man lives in Queens. So all of those things made life beautiful.
Mate, that's fantastic. What can you tell us about Out of This World? What's happening with Out of This World?
Well, Out of This World, it was Playboy magazine. It's Playboy online now. When you say Playboy, most people think of girly magazines. But even throughout the history, Playboy's always had little interviews about movies and music. And they always had that page that it was that one page, that Q&A page with, you know, presidents and military people and scientists and stuff like that. So Playboy now has become more of a lifestyle magazine. But over the past couple of years, I didn't know that until they approached me. They would put comic books. Playboy magazine would always put an exclusive comic book in there. So a few months ago, they called me in for a meeting. And I was like, what's this about? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be in a girly magazine. My image is clean and all of this stuff like that. But they was like, yo, and Hugh Hefner was a huge comic book fan.
He was,
into art, into paintings, like an artist, but he was a huge comic book fan. And they gave me the whole 411 and stuff like that. And they was like, yo, we would like to put one of your, and I'm like, I'm the new kid on the block. But they said, yeah, man, but your comic books is so cool. You know, your comic books could be right up there with Hellboy and Archie. And I was like, whoa, really? And so they said most of the stories have, you know, it's a comic book adventure, but it has a theme. So our issue, we did Out of This World, but the theme of it is, it's about equality. And we're dealing with the equality of gender equality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like in comic books, there's one, Amy Chu is the head writer for Darryl Makes Comic Books.
Poison Ivy, she's fantastic.
Poison Ivy and Red Sonja and the Green Hornet, and now she's doing big things. She's working with Netflix on writing stories. But we wanted to do something where we can always want to inspire. So the issue deals with the empowerment or respect of women as being able, capable, just like the men. So it just opens up with this, the issues about, it's a young graffiti artist girl who is better than all the dude graffiti artists. But the funny thing is, an alien comes from another world, right? So when they see the spaceship and the alien, the girl that's doing the graffiti, Pinky, and her sidekick, the dude, they see the ship and they run. So the alien chases after them. So they think that they're in danger. So, and it's also about not judging a book by its cover, right, and taking time to slow down and have patience so you can understand what the other person is actually saying. So the alien is talking to them in the alien language, but they don't know. All they know is they're about to die. So my superhero, DMC, comes in to fight the bad, evil alien. They get into it. DMC and the sidekicks get into it with the alien. And then my guy, who's like my Q to James Bond, or he's like my Alfred or whatever, yeah, he comes running and he stops the fight and he has a boombox, but it's actually a translator.
Great.
He creates, with a boombox, he creates this device that could translate any language intergalactically. Not just to help me understand Chinese and German and all that, but if an alien shows up, he can use this thing. So basically the alien, who we thought was this mean, crazy, evil monster dude, is actually a female alien. So DMC is surprised, or why is he threatening my kids? And my guy goes, DMC, in the first place, it's not a dude, it's a girl. And she's coming here because on this faraway galaxy, the aliens worship the little girl Graffiti as like how we worship Jedi Masters.
Right, yeah, okay.
And we came here to pay homage to you. So, and the young girl is surprised, like she's just doing the art and creativity out of love. She never knew that what she was creating could have effect on a bunch of people from a faraway place and no idea. So that's what the issue is about. So we call it Out of This World because, like Forbidden Planet, yeah, what we represent, what we have, we're out of this world. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, in the book, I talk about, as I'm doing my narration, I live in a world where anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? Where the extraterrestrial becomes earthly, where yes, out of this world becomes domestic. You know what I'm saying? Where the superpowered beings and the gods and the demons and the angels all become people just sitting around the table at lunch trying to have a dialogue that's going to improve all. So yeah, we was honored. We are honored that we was able to. And what's cool about it, it's a special exclusive edition for Playboy. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's something that takes the DMC universe to that other place. Now, after it has its run online, yeah, as soon as it's over, it's going to be in Playboy for probably like 6 months. Yeah. At the end of the 6 months, I'm going to be able to press up actual copies, books. Yeah. So then I'll be able to sign, distribute, you know what I'm saying? It'll be in the stores. It's coming in the stores. But it was just a great opportunity to be diverse, to be inclusive, and to expand what comic books mean to all of us. You know, hopefully somebody goes Playboy online and falls in love, or like me, reignites their love for comic books. Because a lot of people say, oh, I used to be in comic books. I said, no, you didn't used to be in it. You just stopped looking. Yeah.
That's going to be, so it's all your touchdowns: creativity, acceptance, inclusivity, all in comic book form.
Yeah, which is, you know, from the DMC graphic novel, all of my books deal with personal, social, political, religious, universal issues that affect us all. You know, we deal with substance abuse, we deal with domestic violence, but we don't do it in that, we're not over profane, we're not vulgar, we're not disrespectful, but we're not dumbed down. We don't talk to the kids as little kids, I'm a superhero. It's like us. We just give you a superhero adventure. Yeah, and in those adventures, sort of like DC and Marvel was good at addressing social issues. I think there was an issue where the Green Arrow and the Green Arrow.
I know what you're thinking of. It's Green Arrow and Green Lantern.
Yeah, they did.
When Green Arrow's sidekick Speedy develops a heroin problem, right?
Right, exactly. When
Yeah.
Stan Lee addressed drugs with Spider-Man.
He did, that's right. Yeah.
Remember that? So because we learned, they taught us, this is how we talk about, racial issues, health issues in this way. The X-Men was just an example of, being prejudiced and racist. We don't like them and differ from it, and persecution and all that. So it's great that we have these comic books, because the comic books do things that they can't do inside our legislative buildings. A lot of people are afraid to really talk on a human level about our issues. Comic books, you know what I'm saying, in pop culture, and the arts is the one that have us realize that all of our differences is what makes us similar. Because what's different about me and different about you is actually the same thing, but we just don't know it. And comic books make me know that we all like the X-Men. I don't care, here in the city, here in the States right now, we got all these police brutality issues. We got all these racial issues. My son is funny. He was like, the struggle is going on with us all. When you look at Star Wars, for instance, which I'm blown away by the catalogs and stuff that the action figures and the models that y'all have in Forbidden Planet. When I walked in, it was like a museum. But my son is funny. He says, when you look at Star Wars, you got the rebels fighting against the mean oppressors, you know what I'm saying? And that's a good way to make us understand the world. And it gives us, especially us geeks and nerds, we just sit back and wait for everybody else to catch up because they're so behind us.
It's true though, mate. It's like, it's easily absorbable morality tales that tell these basic truths about our existence. And
exactly.
Culture,
Exactly. Like, I guess it's Parliament there. Like, we have Congress and the White House and stuff. So Parliament needs to realize a day inside Forbidden Planet can teach them how to solve some of the problems, because the struggles, everything that the real world grows. That's why it's not make-believe. Yeah. We all relate to, you know what I'm saying? I always tell people, I said, if you love the Powerpuff Girls, and then you love Star Wars and Star Trek, and you love Mr. Spock, and if you love Spider-Man, and the people that you love, this is deep. We think that all of this wonderful pop culture was created for us. I beg to differ. I think it's created because we exist. Because we came into this world, these things had to be made. That's why we're attracted to them. If none of us wasn't here, like I always tell the kids, don't be ashamed of being a geek and a nerd. We're the ones who make the stories. We're the ones who tell the adventures. We're the ones who bring understanding. In order for those things to manifest, who's the people making all the tech? The smart, educated Reed Richards and Peter Parkers and Tony Starks. Who's writing all the stories? Who's creating? Forbidden Planet is just as valuable as the Museum of Natural History here, because it's documenting. If everything ended tomorrow and some aliens came here, they could walk into Forbidden Planet and open up a book and read the story and understand how we as this human, this human race thinks.
Mate, I'm telling you, me and all the guys who work here, all the women and men who work here with me,
right?
We'll totally agree on this point. You are dead right. You are 100% correct.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely. Here, mate. That's such a great thing to hear as well. Can I ask you about? So it's no exaggeration. Founding father of hip hop. You hear a lot of platitudes knocking around the music industry, around the movie industry, but that is absolutely 100% correct. Looking back on your amazing solo output and your amazing output with Run DMC, what are the highlights for you? How does it feel to be the founding father of hip hop, and how does it feel to have had the career you've had?
I think it's more of a thing of responsibility. Yeah. Aunt May told Peter Parker, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, some people don't wake up to that, you know what I'm saying? But I think through the hip hop artists before us, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who made the message
Great.
The Soul
Great
Africa
stuff.
Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force, who made Planet Rock. These records were all about the community of the people. It wasn't just about me being great and this and that. It was about the world that we lived in, which we also got from the great rock stars. You know, hip hop came right out. Punk, which of course, you know, originated in, partly originated simultaneously, the punk movement here in the States from over there in the UK.
Yeah,
y'all put it on the map. You know what I'm saying? We're going to dress like we want. We're going to say, you know, F the establishment. If the government, they'll celebrate the government if it's right. But if it's wrong and unrighteous, they're going to call it out. So we got a lot of our inspirations from the punk movement and what's called the classic rock movement. And what I mean by that is these guys were huge, huge, iconic, celebrity-rich rock stars. But people like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, John Fogerty, Joni Mitchell, and Neil Young, who else? Led Zeppelin, you know, the Levee Breaks. They sung songs about the people. So we knew we had this big responsibility. So for us, when we look back, it was a huge honor to be considered the poster boys, the representatives of this hip hop movement. When you say hip hop, the first thing you think is Run DMC and My Adidas, and Run DMC and Walk This Way, and all the records, It's Like That, and that's the way it is. Remember, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
right.
It was
My Adidas, you know, I mean.
My Adidas walked through concert doors and roamed all over. I stepped on stage at Live Aid. Like, to be the only hip hop group invited to Live Aid?
Yeah, wow.
It's an amazing, so it was all about responsibility. But I think our greatness was so universally received. Like I said, we wasn't afraid to let people know where it was coming from, what was inside of us. You know what I'm saying? It was hard, it was mean, it was something like that, but it was presented in a way that was respectable. It's respectable. You know, it's wonderful that people say to me, yo, D, you was like my superhero, the way you look, the way you sound. So that means we was representing not just us, but everybody else who felt the same thing in a good way. And, you know, like I said, I think the huge achievements was the Live Aid, being the only group. At that was amazing. Time, it was still early, but they didn't have to invite us. So to invite us, we was like, wow. And then to be the first non-athletic entity to get a major endorsement from a sports apparel company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
when Adidas made the Run DMC Adidas things. And then I think the third one would definitely have to be what we did when we hooked up with Aerosmith.
That was amazing. And how did that come about, mate? What was the genesis of that?
Yeah, the genesis, if you remember in the early years of hip hop, we sampled a lot.
Of course, yeah.
We would take people's music and make our own songs. So originally, we was going to take Walk This Way, and me and Run was going to rap over it. We were just going to sample the music. But it was Rick Rubin, one of the greatest producers
one of the greatest producers of all time.
Of all time. There was Rick Rubin who said, no, you should do the record the way the band originally did it. So me and Run was totally against it because we wanted to talk about us. I want to say I'm DMC and a place to be. Been rapping on a mic since '83. I'm the best MC in history. There will never be an MC better than me. That's how we wanted the record to go. But Rick said, no, y'all should do the record over. And then once again, being responsible, Rick said we should do it with the original people that did. See, it would have been different if we would have just did it over without them. But since we did it with them, we showed the world we can come together. So when these two generations, these two genres came together, you know how great some of the mashups in comic books are? Legendary. You never forget about
Marvel
them.
team up, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it was exactly a Marvel team up. It was the Aerosmith band coming together with Run DMC. And the beautiful thing about that, people say, that'll never work. You know, people always have their doubts, but it came together and it was a beautiful thing, which gave birth after that to, you know, Kid Rock, Rage Against the Machine, Korn,
Yeah.
Nirvana. You know, David
Yes.
Grohl was
Yeah.
like, we never missed the Run DMC,
Yeah.
Aerosmith, Beastie Boys show. So it was all of these kids who had different upbringings, different backgrounds, different way of dressing and expressing themselves. But what do we all have in common? We love the same music, we like the same books, and we go eat at the same places, and we like the same TV shows.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, the crowning achievement, which made all of this make sense. So
Yeah.
now, for me, it works when I come back and say, oh, you know, when I show up at a Comic-Con,
Yeah.
and people go, they come in, they'll go, what, DMC, why are you here? There's not a concert going on. I said, I got a comic book. And the first thing they ask is, what you doing with a comic book? And all I got to do is go, well, when I was a little kid, all I did was read, collect, and draw. And right then and there, we could sit there for 5 hours and not even talk about hip hop. That comes later.
Yeah.
Usually it's the first thing to talk about. But now, dude, what do you do with a comic book? You know what I'm saying? What the hell are you doing with Larry Hammer? How'd you get how did you get Dennis Cowan? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, genius. The question. Amazing.
They asked me, you know Bill Sienkiewicz? I'm like, yeah, Bill Sienkiewicz is my boy. And they're like, what? I met Tony Moore, the guy who drew the Walking Dead comic. And
right.
He was like, yo,
major talent.
Yeah, he was, I love King of Rock. So it was basically all of us somewhere else doing the same thing. And it didn't take music to bring us together, like me and you.
Yeah, right on.
It was the comic books.
It's the comic books.
We can sit here and talk about, the same thing you feel about the Beastie Boys and LL's, the same thing I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty of it.
I love that philosophy, and it's great hearing you express it. What are you working on at the moment, D? In addition to Out of This World, what else have you got going on?
Out of This World is definitely going to be a print comic book. That's the next move for that. Yeah. So if you remember, in between each volume of the DMC graphic novels, when we first came out, we did an 8-page issue 0. Then we did DMC number 1, and that worked good. So then we did 1.5 to introduce number 2. Then we did 2.5 to introduce number 3. So we have DMC 3.5 coming, which
Fantastic.
it's going to introduce a DMC number 4 coming. Yeah. On the music side, though, I have a bunch of projects getting ready to come out. The first song that I'm gonna drop in this new decade is a song featuring DMC, Ice-T, Chuck D, Public Enemy, and DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Oh man,
Jeff.
what?
Yeah, it's that fun thing again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not that energy. We're not trying to sell records here. We're trying to celebrate and put a feeling out. So I have that dropping. And that's off a project called drumroll DMC. Now I could run DMC to the ground. Oh, I didn't mean that. I could run DMC to the ground. Wow, that works. DMC always meant, devastated mind controller. D's for doing it all of the time. M's for the rhymes. That all mine. C's for cool as can be. And I wear my glasses so I can see it. I still wear my glasses, but I got my contacts in now, and that even still works. I wear my contacts so I can see, because contacts start with C. But I have a project coming out called Dynamic Musical Collaborations. And that's me collaborating with, drumroll, Joan Jett.
Wow.
Sammy Hagar, Travis Barker, Sebastian Bach, Tim Armstrong from Rancid, Dave Navarro.
Yeah, amazing, mate.
Yeah, it's me collaborating with my favorite artist friends from alternative rock, punk rock, and what people call classic rock. So those are
when are the recordings from those projects going to drop? When are we going to see them?
I guess the project will start because it should have started now, but because of COVID, everything's booked back. So we're in July now. It's going to be November before you know. So I believe at the top of the year, I'll start dropping the projects off of Dynamic Musical Collaborations. A lot of them too, depending on the subject matter of the record. A lot of them will have, mini comic books to come along with the music. I think that's a cool thing to start doing right now.
Yeah. That's good. That collaboration would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
That totally works.
Because you can read the little comment book while you listen to the song, it's that whole fun thing. So yeah, more, you're definitely gonna get more from the DMC universe, and we're getting ready to exciting now with the DMC universe. The first 3 issues was just the introductory to the universe. Yeah. So now I'm gonna start giving you my arch enemies, because Batman has the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin. Now I'm into the stage where I can say, this is DMC, this is his #1 guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the stage that I'm at. Superman has his Lex Luger and everything. Yeah. So now we're going to get significant to where the stories delve into a long arcing journey that will have twists and turns and one-offs here. But now we're on this straight pattern of how comic books and universes work.
Yeah, mate, I can't wait to see that. And I mean, when we're on the other side of COVID, with the other side of the pandemic, yes, and you're releasing that material and you're back over here on this side of the Atlantic.
I'm coming to visit. I'm coming to hang out with the people. Yeah. Remember when I did my in-store? It was the most beautiful thing ever. It was
a fantastic day, mate. It was
people
amazing.
From all walks of life, the little kids and stuff like that. Yeah, so here's a promise to you. I would say I'm about 95% with most of the new music, but technically that means 75, because you still got to mix and fine tune and stuff like that. I'm going to do a song. Called Forbidden Planet. So by the time I see you in, 6 or 7 months or whatever, we'll debut it when I come.
D, thank you, mate. That's going to be fantastic.
And we'll put it up. We'll put it up. I'll do it as a gift to you. You put it up on the site and do it as a free download. And, it'll definitely be something kids, grandmothers, and mothers can listen to at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So that's a promise.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's amazing.
Because what sparked it by you. See, we are working together. By you asking me to do a freestyle, I was like, I can't do a freestyle but for the planet. But my first words was Forbidden Planet. You can't understand it. So that's how the rhyme is going to start. And I'm going to come up with a beat and a whole story about
that's gonna be fantastic. Can you close us out with that freestyle one more time, mate?
Forbidden planet, you can't understand it. People in the world can't reprimand it. It starts right here, they began it. And when it starts, it'll never end. This is where your life truly begins. Forbidden planet, don't take it for granted.
Fantastic, mate. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Hey, man. I know you're really busy.
Hold on. Before I let y'all go, I gotta say, man, happy anniversary, happy birthday. Congratulations. Y'all ain't going nowhere. Many, many more. You got so much more in store. You're not only good in the hood, you're good globally. And you're you're an institution, you're an entity, you're a personification of what makes life great. Happy anniversary and many, many more.
Thank you, D. Thank you for making the time to hang out with us at Forbidden Planet today.
No doubt,
Thanks for talking to me. So I'm going to sign up by saying, my name's Sumner. This is the living legend that is DMC right here. And this has been Forbidden Planet 42. And we'll see you in the store. Thank you very much. Thanks,
42,
D. That was awesome.
42 is all for you.